welcome back to our channel, and today I'm sharing with you kids lunch prep as well as adult lunch prep for our house. First off, I'm making the kids a special little treat, some chocolate covered pretzels to go in their lunches, and I just cook those. I warm those up in the microwave in a tall cup so that they're easier to dip, and I just dip those in and then I sit them on some freezer paper on a pan and refrigerate those until they are hard and they can be packaged up in lunches. So next up we are making the chicken spinach wrap sushi rolls. Not really sushi, but they kind of resemble sushi. So I've got some spinach flatbreads, and then you'll see I'm going to spread it with some cream cheese just on one end, and that's basically just so it stays together. And then I've also got some mozzarella cheese, some organic chicken deli meat, some shredded tricolored carrots, and what else do I put on there? I think that's it. And then I roll it up, and once it's rolled up, I slice those into small circles or small portions, and then I put those off in a bowl. So I just made 4 today because I don't want them to sit in the fridge too long, so I'll make a few more probably on Wednesday, and then that'll be good for the rest of the week. So there you can see how the carrots and everything were in the center, and it just depends on how you roll it. So that's why you saw me move the chicken to one end and then place those carrots in the center. So I thought about the end pieces, so they weren't as thick as the other pieces, which was too funny. So I went ahead and kept the center pieces, and I set the end pieces off to the side, and you'll see some little hands come and grab those. And Caden was trying to grab the one out of the bowl that would be for lunches. So then I grabbed another bowl, and as I made the wraps, I cut the ends off and I placed those in the bowls just so they could grab those while I was meal prepping. So it's just funny because you start making things and then all of a sudden they're hungry. Alright, so now that those rolls are made, I'm ready to use my lunchbox, portioned off or sectioned off lunch containers. I give them a little bit of ranch in the smaller containers, so those are just like the sauce containers, and I do pack those inside the lunchbox because if they happen to come open or something, I do not want ranch all over the inside of the lunchbox. So I give them 3 of those rolls each. And yes, I know a lot of people will say that, well, that's not very much, or, well, your kids don't eat very much. They really don't. Here's the thing. I think school lunch is an absolute joke sometimes. 20 minutes, or, by the time your kids get in there and sit down, they have 17 minutes to eat. So I don't give them a whole lot because, like, my boys have a snack, and I have things ready for them the second they get home. So yeah, so 3 pinwheels, veggie straws went in there, the ranch, and then 3 of those chocolate covered pretzels. Also, I thought about making those pretzels special this week with some Valentine's Day sprinkles, but then my kids actually don't like sprinkles. So there are the lunches all prepped and ready to go. And then I'm going to move on to adult lunch prep. So I'm making meatloaf here, and I'm doubling the recipe. So I'm putting the ground beef in there, and then I will add some basil, and then I've got a container of seasonings which I will list. And then I have also, I want to say the seasonings were actually just some garlic powder, some onion powder, some salt, and some pepper. So I'm using just some organic golden round crackers from Whole Foods, or from, I can't remember where I got them from actually. But I'm going to go ahead and put those in there. I crunch them up before I open the package. It makes it a little easier. So, and then I'm going to add 2 eggs to start with, but then as I'm mixing it, I think I add 1 more egg. I'm not totally sure. I can't remember now. Just to give it a little bit more thickness, but I can't remember. But then I'm going to chop up a red pepper just to add a little bit more natural flavor to it. And then you'll see me add an onion, the red pepper, the onion, the basil, and the seasonings, and then I will make a side dish to go with this after that. Okay, so it was not an extra egg that I added, it was ketchup. So I went ahead and added some organic ketchup to that, and I'm gonna mix this in as good as I can. I don't know about everybody else, but I love adding in the diced onion and peppers. I feel like it adds so much more flavor to a meatloaf. When I'm making it for my kids, I try to either dice those up really small, or I just do the onions, and then I puree carrots and I mix it in. So that's just a little trick. And then here I'm using this, it's called a chop and mix, I think. It's from Pampered Chef. It's like my most used tool in the kitchen. Like, I love this thing. So if you don't have one, get yourself one. So now I'm ready to get my meatloaf mixed in the pan. So I'm just spraying it with some olive oil there, and then I just pour that in. And what I like about doing it in a 9x9 pan is that I can slice it into little rectangles, and I don't have to have 2 bread pan type pans for this. So I'm just going to smush it around, and then I'm going to top it with some ketchup, and I'm going to put it in the oven at 400 degrees for about 40 minutes. You want to make sure that this gets cooked throughout. You don't want any raw meat or any raw centers. So you'll see when I go to portion this off that there's a giant cut in it. I do check to make sure that it's cooked throughout. So now I'm just going to meal prep the side for that meatloaf. So I've got a bunch of these Brussels sprouts that I got with my grocery order, And basically, I don't know why people don't like Brussels sprouts. I feel like if people don't like Brussels sprouts, they also don't like cabbage, because these are basically mini cabbages. And I'm just gonna go through and cut all of these up. They really varied in sizes, but I didn't mind. These were organic Brussels sprouts. You'll see later in a little bit that I show you like one giant one. There was a massive one that was in the package. I add some carrot chips to that, and then I add, I want to say, some olive oil, some fresh garlic or minced garlic, salt, pepper, and then I use some all-purpose seasoning on that. Mix it up with my hands. Pop that in the same oven that the meatloaf was in, so at 400 degrees for about 15 minutes. So just keep an eye on your carrots, okay? Alright, so now it is time to go ahead and portion these off. So I didn't do a whole lot of meals this week, just because we're both going to be out of the house and away doing some meetings and things like that. As spring gets busier, we both get a little crazier. So I can't remember how many this made, maybe 6. But the meatloaf is quite thick, so it will look like it's not very much food, but it actually was quite a bit of food. So I give my husband a little bit more, or a little bit thicker. He gets a few more ounces than I do. So you'll see that some of the bowls will end up with extra pieces, and those are the ones that are for him. So I portion that off, and then I stack those up. I label them with either a G or an L, so we know whose is whose, and then those go in the fridge. So now we are on to some dinner prep. This, I'm going to show you guys 3 out of the 5 meals I prepped. Just a side note, I also prepped some spaghetti squash, and then I also prepped some sausage and peppers, and those are actually in the freezer. You'll also notice that I make salmon. I actually placed the salmon in the freezer as well, because I plan on eating that later this week. So right now I am making some burger patties, and it's literally the easiest burger patty recipe ever. You can see I have my mix and chop out again, and I'm just putting 1 packet of organic ranch seasoning on that, and then I'm just gonna mush this all around until it's all incorporated. And I have my little burger patty maker. The ranch actually makes the burgers a little bit sticky, so you see that I kind of struggle getting my patties out of that thing. I actually am looking for one that like pops it out the bottom. That way they stay circles, because when they get all bumpy on the edges, it makes me cringe a little bit. but I get that all mixed up, and then I'm gonna make patties. I place freezer paper in between my layers so that they don't stick, and then I place those in the fridge. So next up is my Mississippi pot roast. Is what this is called. So I'm using a little bit less butter because I've got 2 pot roasts there, and the fat from that is going to really cook down when I put these in the crock pot later this week. So I'm gonna go ahead and open these up, and I've got a baggie ready for it. I'm gonna place that inside the baggie, and then I'm going to dice up my butter. This is another super easy recipe, you guys. So I had the ranch mix, and the recipe also calls for an onion soup mix that I totally forgot about. So I did not put the onion soup mix. So normally your recipe would call for 1 pack of ranch, 1 3-pound or so chuck roast, 1 stick of butter, and then it just depends on how much banana peppers you want, or you can use pepperoncinis. I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but I use the banana peppers because I love banana peppers, and everybody in my family does too. So I actually end up pouring that entire container in there later, and then I mix it all up because I was left with like 8 banana peppers in the jar. Plus I wanted the juice in there. So just make life easier. Go ahead and dump that whole thing in there. And then I'll cut my butter up into little pats. And then I actually stuck that in the fridge because I'm thinking we'll probably have this on Tuesday. So next up, we've got some salmon, and in here I've got some dill and some fresh garlic and some salt and pepper, and I want to say some all-purpose seasoning. I will figure out what I put in there. So this is just your basic like garlic and herb, lemon, salmon. I have literally the worst juicer in the world, so if you guys have a juicer that you like, let me know, because this thing, the seeds, everything, it was a hot mess. The juice was squirting everywhere. So I'm picking out the seeds right now, but I pour my juice into those seasonings, and then I mix them all up. I chop my salmon into approximately 6-ounce portions. I've gotten good at knowing how big a salmon portion is because we do eat it once or twice a month. So I mix that up, keep it super simple. I want to say I add either some ghee, that's some melted ghee into that, and with the lemon juice, and then I'm gonna pop that in a baggie, and like I said before, I put this in the freezer for later this week. So I am double bagging my salmon because I was out of freezer baggies, of course. But it's not going to be in the freezer long. We're going to have this either Thursday or Friday, and that's it. Thanks, guys.